Senator Aaron Ford and his lovely wife, Berna Ford. Welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having us.
We're here to talk about some stuff that happened back when you were in college that is probably going to come out on the campaign trail, because as you know, everything in politics comes out on the campaign trail.
Right.
Why don't you tell me just in general, things that happened back in those days?
Well, Steve, a lot of people have heard my story and heard me talk about being raised, not knowing day to day if the water was going to come on in my house or if the electricity would come on. And a lot of people have heard about me using a program called Project Upward Bound to transition from tough times to Texas A&M University. That transition wasn't just from tough times to A&M, it was also from being a boy to becoming a young adult. And I made some bad decisions as a young adult while at Texas A&M, and I want to just come and share some of those with you, because you're right, in the political arena, some of the things you've done in the past come out and people want to talk about it, and they want to paint you as though you are something that you are not. And so I wanted to come on today and talk about some of those things. And the first thing that I'll mention is I recall being a freshman at Texas A&M, and I remember literally walking from one side of campus to my dorm room to the other side of campus, and I had been drinking on the one side of campus, and so I was walking back, and when the campus police saw me walking, they arrested me for public intoxication. Obviously a bad decision, but not something obviously indicative of who I am. Young college kid, fresh on the campus, and so I got arrested for public intoxication.
And this was in your second year at A&M?
My first year.
First year.
Yeah, second semester.
Yeah.
If I remember right, 1991. I started Texas A&M in 1990.
Was there a party? Had it been a party that you were at?
I'll say we were partying on the other side of campus, just hanging out with friends, as I said.
Yeah.
And I was walking to my dorm, and campus police saw me walking, and arrested me and charged me with public intoxication. So. That's something that I think many people can understand. College kids do that, but it's a bad decision nonetheless, and I wanted to acknowledge that.
You weren't arrested for that charge ever again?
No, I've never been arrested for public intoxication again. And in fact, what we're talking about now, are very limited, happened over a very limited time in my life. We'll talk about a few other things, but I'll say it this way. The first 21 years of my life, I spent my focus on trying not to go back to neighborhoods in which I had grown up. The last 25 years of my life, I've spent trying to raise 3 sons and a nephew, being the best father that I can be for them, being the best role model that I can be for them, being the best husband that I could be for my wife, and just trying to show them what a real man is supposed to be about and what civic duty looks like. So, I would hope that as we have this discussion, people don't forget about the last 25 years and place upon me some conception that what happened 25 years ago is who I am today.
Yeah. You, in December 5th, 92, there was a party at your apartment.
Right.
You weren't living on campus at that time, obviously.
Right.
You had gotten a speeding ticket and had not taken care of it. It went to a bench warrant, so there was a warrant out for that, plus the original charge of speeding. So there was a noise complaint, and the police come, they ask you for your ID, you show them your ID, and then you got arrested for that warrant.
Yeah, bad decision, obviously, and speeding. I lived in College Station, this is where Texas A&M was, but I was from Dallas, Texas, and I would frequently on the weekends go home on a 3.5-hour drive. The speed limit then was only 65, and so, every once in a while, I would go beyond the speed limit, and I got a speeding ticket, and I didn't pay it. Bad decision, and there was a warrant, as you've indicated, that was issued for my arrest, and when the neighbors called us at the party, and I happened to be the owner of the apartment, gave them my ID, and there you have it. I was arrested for.
Did you know at that time when you gave your ID? Did you suspect I'm going to get in trouble?
I didn't remember. I don't suspect. I remember, one way or the other at that point.
Then in '93, you were living with your girlfriend at the time, who was the mother of a son that you had. You were there at the apartment. You weren't on the lease. Her name was on the lease. You weren't on the lease. and there was some kind of argument. She called the police and said that you were there without her permission, even though you lived there.
Right.
And that resulted in an arrest, although there were no charges ever filed.
No, it didn't result in an arrest.
It did not result.
Nothing happened. I mean, there was no outcome of that. You know, it was interesting. You know, she and I had just had a baby.
Yeah.
We had a 1-month-old child, and I was staying at our house, as our apartment, as we were two young kids just trying to figure it out, trying to understand how we were going to proceed. I was a junior in college at that time, and yeah, we had some small argument about something. And again, you're right, I wasn't on the lease, and so when the policeman came out, the charge was trespassing. And so, but again, she didn't press any charges. Nothing happened in that regard. But it made me immediately begin to think, and a few months later, I became a single parent. My son's mother and I decided mutually to separate, and I became a single parent. I got on Section 8 housing, got on food stamps, and with the help of my family, I started raising my kid and trying to finish college at Texas A&M University. As I said, you know, I was 21 years old at that time, and the 21 years before that, I had one focus. And with my new son, my focus completely switched. Yeah. And to be sure, I made other mistakes, you know, obviously beyond being 21, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But at the end of the day, you know, we still have to be able to understand that I was a young kid, still in college and trying to make things happen.
How old were you at that time?
21 when I had my son. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then finally in '94, you had a car problem. You had a problem with a car tire.
Yeah.
And you got the tire repaired at a repair shop. This is also in Texas, correct?
No, well, yeah, in Texas, absolutely. It was down in the College Station area.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Like I said, I used to drive home every weekend, not every weekend, but several weekends. Especially after having had my son, I would try to go home and be with family and things of that sort. And on this one particular occasion, I recall having a leak in my tire, and I couldn't afford a new tire. I thought I was going to be able to get the leak fixed, but the tire shop said, no, the leak can't be fixed, so you need a brand new tire. And he said, I know you can't pay for a brand new tire, but I will put one on your car, and when you come back this weekend, you can pay me. And unfortunately, I didn't pay him soon enough, and he ended up filing a charge against me, and you know, it was a charge for theft. Yeah. But that charge was dismissed. Again, I want to be clear about that. These are, you know, bad decisions that kids make, that I made, and that charge was dismissed because I ended up paying for the tire. Okay. But that's what happened on that. And again, these things are not at all indicative of who I am. And you know, I would hope that people are able to look at the body of work over the last 25 years of my life and be able to judge me on that, and not judge me on bad decisions I made as a college kid.
And certainly nothing here stopped you from going on to earn a master's degree, a law degree, and a PhD.
Right.
And so obviously you're a member of the bar. None of these charges prevented you from becoming a member of the bar, becoming a practicing attorney.
Right. I used to teach school as well, and you know, they do background checks for school teachers, and so obviously there's nothing here that is prohibited for me to be able to do what I've been able to do over the last 25 years of my life.
Have you ever talked about this publicly before? You've been in public office for a while now.
You know, I may have on occasion, but not frequently. I'm very comfortable talking about my upbringing. And, you know, my time at Texas A&M was a growth period for me. Again, it was a transition from being a boy to a young adult, and you know, I've thought to myself about the best ways to cope with that and to address it, and this is one of those ways that I'm trying to do it now. Yeah.
And certainly, I mean, I think people can understand we've all gotten speeding tickets. Some of us have gotten multiple speeding tickets. We've all, you know, gotten involved in situations that we regret later. You're now running, though, for the top prosecutor in the state of Nevada. How do you think voters will react to learning about this in your current campaign?
Well, I'm hoping that voters react by, first off, understanding the fact that these events happened over 2 decades ago, 25 years ago. Again, as a young college student trying to figure out how to become a man, I would hope that they would also understand that we are a compassionate state. We are a forgiving state. We are a state that understands that people oftentimes make mistakes, but that doesn't define who they are. What defines who you are is what you do in the long term. And over the last 25 years, my wife and I have been able to we've been able to, gosh.
Try to take your time.
Okay, okay. All right. Okay. You've been in session. Every time I start crying, I have a hard time starting to talk again. But over the last 25 years, my wife and I have been able to raise 3 fantastic young men, and we've raised our nephew. And that's what I hope the voters can understand.
How have these experiences shaped you as a political leader? You've had these experiences. A lot of people who run for politics have not had any. They've never been arrested. They've never had any kind of interaction with police or anything else. Does that change the way you are as a lawmaker, you think?
I think it absolutely does. I mean, it helps to inform the positions that I take on several issues. I understand the importance of a law enforcement officer who is enforcing the law but has authorization for discretionary use of his authority as well. I understand the importance of second chances. I understand the importance of consequences. And I've said it on your show before that when I am the next Attorney General, there will be no criminal who has sanctuary in this state under my administration. But at the same time, we have to be able to understand the importance of reintegrating people who have made mistakes in the past back into society so that they don't have to recidivate and don't have to go back and do the same things that got them in trouble in the first place, so that they can become active social agents, so that they can have the dignity of work and providing for themselves and their families. My wife and I have worked hard over the last few years. There was a time when I was working on my law degree and my PhD at the same time, and my wife and I had 9 jobs between the two of us.
Wow.
9 jobs between the two of us. I was teaching school. I was working for 2 different professors, one in the law school, one in the School of Education. I was working at a law firm doing odd and end research, and I was working at Outback Steakhouse. My wife had a law degree, and she was working at a clothing store. We were making ends meet. And so when I talk about trying to help Nevadans be the best that they can be, I'm not talking about something that I've heard. I'm talking about something that I know, something that I've experienced. And I want Nevadans and I want the people who I'm asking to elect me to be the Attorney General to know who I am as a person so that they know what they're going to get. And I'm always going to be an Attorney General who puts our families first.
And as you go out and tell your story, certainly your political opponents are going to bring this up.
Right.
This is part of your record as well, right?
Yes.
In addition to your degrees, in addition to your work as an attorney, in addition to your rising to Senate Majority Leader, this is a part of it as well.
I agree. That's right.
So so you're not going to shy away from this on the campaign trail.
I'm not.
Do you think, as talking to the voters, if there's a voter who says, well, here you have on the one hand you have a guy who's not been arrested that we know of, and has no problems with the law, never had any of that, and here we've had a guy who's made some mistakes and admits he's made some mistakes. Who should we pick? How should the voters make that decision?
I mean, again, I think it goes to what we want our top law enforcement officer to be, what we want the lawyer for the people of the state of Nevada to be about. My campaign is about consumer protection. My campaign is about ensuring that Nevadans are safe both in their person and in their workplace. My campaign is about implementing the will of the people, not impeding it. And I'm talking about the background check initial petition that the current administration in West Duncan, who was a part of the Attorney General's office, did not implement. And so when you look at our positions, that's the issue. Not what I did 25 years ago. To be sure, that's part of the record and part of what has made me who I am. But we look at what current Nevadans are thinking about. We should be talking about what keeps Nevadans up at night. And what's the first thing that they think about when they wake up in the morning. And what I did 25 years ago are neither of those.
The, you know, I haven't talked to your opponents or anybody else about this, but I would imagine one of the things they're going to say is what they said when the issue of the tax liens came up. And they're going to say, you know what, people have made mistakes, they paid their debts, that's great, but there's an issue of responsibility involved here. There's an issue of, you know, is this person who's running to be a leader in our state, are they a responsible person? Would you say that you're a responsible person? I
am a responsible person, but I am not a person who is any different from other Nevadans who were hit financially by the recession. You know, I find it remarkable that some are looking to revel in the financial misfortune of the Ford family, while at the same time touting compassion. The truth of the matter is, we were hit just like any other family was, and we had to make tough choices. When I tell you that I know about the increasing costs of higher education, I had a kid going to college during that time period. When I tell you that I know about insurance and hospital bills, I had a son who was hospitalized during that time period. So we had to make choices, and those choices were to take care of the family in those circumstances, and we always, make no mistake about it, we always paid our taxes. We just underpaid our taxes. Yeah. We were on a payment plan, and we have paid them off. That's the bottom line. We've even paid them off, and they've been paid off for 2 years now. Yeah. So again, you know, looking at negative things that, you know, I've experienced is if that's the approach that they want to take, then they can continue to have at it. I think Nevadans want to talk about what they need and what the issues are that are pressing today.
Yeah, absolutely. Bernie, you know Senator Ford probably better than anybody else, any voter ever will. What do you make of all this?
Well, it's obviously an attack because his opponent cannot focus on the issues. As Senate Majority Leader, Aaron has done a lot of good work in the state of Nevada. As a person, I could not be more proud to have him as my husband and the father of my children. And that is not just me talking to you. I truly believe that. And he's a good person. We all make mistakes. You know what? He can relate to Nevada voters. If, you know, sometimes having been in certain situations makes you more relatable. Aaron can relate. He can relate, but he has also been able to rise above his challenges. And so, you know, in his position, he'll have to be a problem solver. He has solved his problems. And so he can solve the problems for the people of Nevada. And so I'm very proud of him and, you know, very proud to be his wife. And I know he'll do a great job for the state of Nevada.
I imagine having had these experiences when you were younger, as you raised your kids, you were probably stricter on them, right? To make sure that they...
Especially my oldest son, he'll tell you, I've laxed off over the course of years, but yeah, we absolutely were.
Yeah. And so obviously, your oldest son is now looking for medical schools.
Yeah, he has three degrees already. He has he double majored in molecular, cellular, and developmental biology and Spanish.
Wow.
Got that degree a couple years back, and now he just got his master's degree at Toro in medical health sciences, and he's applied to med school. And that's been my focus. Our focus has been the last 25 years in ensuring that we can raise young men who are going to be good for our society, and we're very proud of our boys.
Yeah. Do you? I imagine this question's very hard to answer, but looking back, if your circumstances were different, do you think you could have avoided a lot of these things when you were coming up as a young man?
Listen, I think my wife said it best, when we all make mistakes. If it wouldn't have been these mistakes, it may have been something else. You know, I'm not going to go dredging around in my opponent's history to figure out what mistakes he made, you know, 30 years ago. He made some. Maybe he was only 7 years old then. Let me fix that. However many years ago, he made some, but that doesn't always define who you are. And so, if not these, some others. I wouldn't trade my past though. I mean, it has given me, I think, a strength of character, a level of resilience, a spirit that says the cup is always half full, and you may try to define me, but I know who I am. And as long as I have the opportunity to be able to talk to people, hopefully they can learn who I am. And that's why I should win this race as Attorney General.
Do you think these things are like a legitimate subject for political discourse? Is it legitimate for people to raise these? Obviously, you'd rather be talking about public policy, gun background checks, things like that, but is this a legitimate thing?
Honestly, I consider it illegitimate. I don't think, especially these. Public intoxication, what college student do you know probably didn't get drunk on campus a time or two?
I was a dry campus, so.
Okay, so this one. Driving and getting a traffic ticket. That again,
one I can relate to.
And as I've said, there are issues that are a lot more pressing, a lot more relevant. These aren't the things that Nevadans are thinking about when they go to sleep. That's not what's keeping them up at night. They want to be certain that their health care is taken care of. They want to be certain that their kids, when they wake up in the morning, when they send them to school, that they are in safe schools. They want to be certain that we are taking care of people on the consumer protection side of things. They're not worried about a public intoxication charge from, almost 30 years ago.
Yeah. All right. Well, Senator Ford, thank you very much for being here. Berna, thank you very much for being here as well. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
Steve.
us.